You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the season finale of the first season of Starfleet Academy called RubinCon. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Jason Tyler. Hey, Father.
Hello.
Folks, we get some more of your listener feedback on our previous episode, so stick around to the end of the show for that. In the meantime, I want to encourage you to check out our merch. We've got our very own Secrets of Star Trek t-shirt that I'm wearing now. If you're watching the video, you can see that. And you can find that at sqpn.com/merch.
Well, to be more precise, if you're watching the video, you can see the word "the" and the top of Father Corey's head. But yeah,
Yes. I feel like Father Corey and Father Jason look enough alike that could be now Father Jason on the t-shirt.
There's enough similarity there, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going with that. All right. In the meantime, Jimmy, can you give us, for the last time, a recap of Starfleet Academy this season?
this week, Nus Braka puts the Federation on trial on live galactic TV. He promises it will be a fair trial, and he appoints Caleb's mom as judge. If the Federation is found guilty, he will detonate the Omega mines and destroy everyone in the Federation. Captain Akin is the only Federation defender present to make speeches on its behalf. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang is back on the saucer section of the Athena. They figure out how they can neutralize the Omega mines by introducing gluons to stabilize them. But we need plot complications to keep them from doing this immediately, so plot complications happen. In the end, Caleb shows up where Nus Braka is making his speech, and Caleb makes his own big, unconvincing speech about the Federation, friends, and home. But he delays things just long enough to let the others neutralize the Omega mines, so Nus Braka tries to detonate them, but it doesn't work. The Federation fleet then warps in impossibly fast and takes Nus Braka into custody. And after lots of drama, Caleb's mother is instantly and miraculously reconciled with the Federation and Captain Akin. The Athena then arrives at Beta Z for summer break, so we're now waiting for season 2. The end.
Father, what'd you think of this one?
I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a good wrap up to the season. I thought we had some good action. We had a couple of payoffs even for things from earlier in the season that were in some ways somewhat subtle without not too much in your face in terms of the way that it was done. And I thought it was an enjoyable episode to watch.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I haven't thought about specifically how does it compare to the last one, but I enjoyed it. It was on the same plane. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't have enjoyed other episodes of other Star Trek series even more, but I would say this is one of the highlights of this season. It has a kind of a slow period in the middle that could have been cut because it was an hour and 7 minutes long. But fundamentally, the gang is together and they're doing stuff and they're not squabbling all the time. So that's what I want in a Star Trek series.
Yeah, I had a similar thought, which I thought this was pretty good for Starfleet Academy. Good action, some good villain stuff going on. And if I actually cared about any of these characters, that would have been a very good episode. but as we've determined in previous episodes, I don't care about any of these folks. So it's hard to elevate this beyond that level. But as far as a Star Trek episode goes, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good.
And there's plenty of speechifying.
Was that the speech? Yes. I kept thinking, well, we'll get into this about Captain Akin versus what other captains might have done in the situation. But I want to hold on that for a sec. One thing I did do is partway through this episode, I started a hugs counter. I started noting every time the characters had to stop to hug each other.
Oh, you could have made a drinking game out of that.
Oh, I would have been smashed. I don't think I would have made it to the end of the episode. My wife would be like, Dom, why are you on the floor? So you mentioned something that I noted right off the top, which is that Caleb's mom is wildly irrational about the Federation, like almost unreasonably so. I get that you're mad, and that would be one thing, but she at one point is almost willing to kill billions of people because she's mad at Captain Akin, and it just seems a little over the top, a little.
Oh, it's psychopathically over the top. I mean,
yes.
When we get her appointed judge, and she's all so Captain Ake at the beginning of the episode hugs there you go, hugs Caleb's mom and tells her Caleb is still alive. We have a plan, but it's vital that Nurse Braka doesn't know about this. And so then within a few minutes, Nurse Braka appoints her as the judge for this trial. And I'm going, she's just been told her son is alive and there's a plan and you need to not mess it up. It's a foregone conclusion. She's going to vote innocent.
Right.
But then she goes irrationally against the Federation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, when that scene first happened with that hug and Ake kind of passing on that information, I thought it would have worked better if Anisha Mir had not known that before the trial started. And then Ake tries to tell her at some point, and Anisha doesn't believe her because she thinks, you're only telling me this. You're lying. You're making this up. You're telling me this now to try to get a better verdict. But by telling it beforehand, I had the same thought as you, Jimmy. Well, there's no way she can find the Federation guilty now.
And technically, she doesn't find the Federation guilty later. She says that Captain Ake is guilty.
Yeah.
And that's not the same thing as the Federation is guilty.
Yeah.
And then Nurse Braka starts going, you see, she heard her say, guilty, guilty. And it's like, is he trying to spin Captain Ake into a death sentence for the entire Federation? Yeah. And he's just blustering that?
Yeah, the legal procedure here is not very well defined.
Yeah.
Yes, the laws of evidence and court.
I will give him that first hug, though, because that's insincere.
Yeah. Right. Okay, we'll do that. I promised the last time I'll complain about this, but they did say in dialogue that the Federation is surrounded by hundreds of mines. Like, there's no way, even if they covered several light years each, which they claim, there's no way. But all right, fine. The CG at the end of 309th did show them within visible distance of each other. So I don't know, whatever. But the mines are controlled by a single point of failure, which is awesome. That's all we need. A single point of failure, Jimmy. Yep. You love those. So a single subspace signal.
Single point of failure resolutions are the easiest to execute.
Right, exactly. So, and they clearly will fix that. And so Braka's goal here, apparently, besides destroying the Federation, is he wants to create this cartel of non-member worlds that are free to pillage other worlds under the threat of Omega 7.
Which is true democracy, after all.
It was a very weird, it seemed like it. I mean, maybe what we're trying to do is show that he's irrational, that he's, he feels a lot like there's a lot of villains these days where they just unhinged. They're just, there are very few villains where they are calculating and intelligent and
like
rational,
Khan.
Even. They're always monsters.
Yeah, and even Khan was partially unhinged, but he was. So in this, now I like and dislike stuff they do about Nurse Braka in this. I like that he gets some good lines periodically, like when he meets Anisha for the first time after she faked her death and ditched him. He says, Anisha, you're alive, like Lazarus, but shorter and a girl.
Yeah.
And so I like that. That's good. That's funny. But then it turns out that his entire vendetta against the Federation is apparently due to his childhood misperceptions of an accident that his own father caused.
Right.
And Ake gets a line later to the non-Federation holograms who were there, and she says, is this who you want to entrust your future to? An angry child with his finger on the trigger whose entire worldview is based on a lie. And I'm going, you just dramatically took down this character. And I'm not talking about Captain Ake's line. I'm talking about what the writers did. Because by establishing that this is all based on a childhood misperception, they have radically taken a good villain down and cheapened this villain. He is now markedly, I mean, he was never Khan, but at least you could argue he's, you know, kind of on that level. You know, he's not quite up to Khan standard, but he's up there in terms of villainy, and now you've just radically cheapened him.
Well, I had a couple issues with that whole thing because A, it lets the Federation off the hook. Like the writers want the Federation to be perfect, and therefore they've made. You could have had them have made a mistake. Like let them have made an error in this that caused him to be unhappy. Let it be an honest mistake. Let it be. But no, the Federation is perfect and blameless in this, and I think that's a bit of a mistake here. But the other thing is, why does Nala only bring this up after the verdict? Why does she wait until we're on the brink of destruction to like she's playing like this weird brinkmanship that's unnecessary? She could have brought it up well before when he was first bringing up the story. I mean, you could headcanon it that, oh, she was didn't think of it, you know, it didn't come up in her mind until later or whatever. But
well, you know what they say, if you have yourself as your own lawyer, you got a fool for a client.
right. That's certainly true. She did in this situation. So yeah, but he reminds me a bit of the Joker, that sort of scene chewing, you know, the Heath Ledger Joker. You know, that sort of scene chewing irrationality. Although that Joker was more menacing, I think, in some ways. I don't want to necessarily get into the details, but
oh no, I'll give you, Heath Ledger was a better villain than Nus Braka was. Yeah.
But there's a lot of this now where we have these villains who are just unhinged, and that's what their villainy is. I think it's more scary to have villains who are rational, who plan, they think they're the good guy. You know, they that sort of villain, like the Khan of the original series of Space Seed, was a better villain than any of the others that we've seen recently. Even in the Nemesis, even like the guy with the big Romulan mining ship. You know, it just seemed he was irrational, and it just I don't like that as a villain.
Yeah, they've been chasing the Khan archetype ever since Star Trek II.
Yeah,
and they have never equaled it. And Nus Braka is just the latest attempt for a Khan style villain. And I guess it is what it is. I mean, for a while he's not Khan, but he's close to that level. And now they've substantially cheapened the character.
Right. So we have this, you know, if the mines go off, they'll destroy 240 worlds and 160 billion people. So we have the huge stakes. We've created the universe-ending stakes essentially, and now that they've got Braga has Ake and Anisha, he's going to destroy the rest of the Athena, and so we have this whole thing where they're going to hide the kids in the airlock by increasing the air pressure.
Yeah,
0.029
is I got it as like 0.029%. I'm going, you wouldn't even notice that,
right?
And she's telling them, take small sips of air, and if you start to feel dizzy, do this. And it's like, no one's going to notice that.
Like there's a bigger air pressure change in submersibles. Like we just like the. And why does that hide anything? Like it doesn't make. We have some feedback on this later on at the end. That's what our feedback from last episode. This is when it first came up. It's just so dumb. Like it's insulting. Like how dumb this is.
Yeah. It feels like the writers were wanting to come up with a new way to hide someone from sensors, and they're like, "Well, we've tried X, we've tried Y. What's left? Well, how about air pressure?"
Yeah, well, as Kirk said, the ship's sensors will detect the presence of a lit match on a planet, but not if you change the air pressure around the match.
Right. Oh. The other thing I noticed is, you know, so they're being attacked by the what are they called? The pirates. The pirates.
Yeah.
Venari Ral. And the Athena, I noticed, never fires back. Is it not armed? Does this Starfleet vessel not have torpedoes and phasers?
Oh, who knows? The technology is so inconsistent on Star Trek. It's always going on the blink for one cause or another. Maybe it was on the blink at that moment.
It could be. I did like another Braga moment when he transported aboard into the captain's chair.
Yeah.
And he has that line, "Who you kidding? It was always going to be in this chair."
It was always going to be me in this chair.
Yeah.
By the way, I also on the technology constantly malfunctioning on Star Trek, J. Michael Straczynski pointed out during Babylon 5 that on our show, the technology works every time straight out of the box. They just don't have the same kind of technological failures as plot devices on Babylon 5.
Well, and it's a crutch. It becomes a writing crutch. The technology fails, and so that's how we get the drama.
Yeah, on Star Trek, they have all this magical technology they've built, and in order to keep it from instantly solving their problems, they have to have it either A, go on the fritz, or B, be conveniently forgotten, which is something I wanted to do sometime. If you ever watch Voyager, they're constantly, because what their solution is, well, our normal magical technology is on the fritz, so we need to invent new magical technology in this episode. And if you watch, they have this huge number of upgrades. It's like, Captain, I can increase shield efficiency by 20%, and that'll be just enough to solve our current problem. I want to rewatch Voyager sometime and keep a spreadsheet of all the technological upgrades they make. And it's like when Voyager comes back, it's this behemoth monster ship that's tougher than anything in the galaxy.
With 10,000 torpedoes and 500 shuttles.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when they're after Ake has been captured, she sends a last message back to the Athena, this cryptic, leap clear of all that is corporeal and make yourself greater. And it's like, oh, that couldn't possibly be a secret message. Dumb as Braka.
It's allegedly a paraphrase of a quote from Hermes Trismegistus, and so that tells the Doctor to use a protocol that's like the Hermes training mission Hermes 19.
Yeah, which takes the old holo emitter, his mobile emitter, and integrates it into the ship so that it can create a holographic image that can be destroyed and hide the ship, which sounds like an awesome technology that every Starfleet vessel should have.
Absolutely.
Yep. Why they don't have it, who knows? But it shouldn't, and it shouldn't require the Doctor to be absorbed into the main computer.
Reference previous comments about magical technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what? At first, I thought they were going to have the Doctor run his emergency command hologram program that he developed on Voyager. I thought that was going to be what he was triggering there, rather than the fake ship explosion or whatever.
Right.
But, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. One thing that they did establish in this is that he does have his holographic transmitter on him, but he's apparently wearing it under his uniform.
Yeah.
And so Sam could be doing the same thing with her holographic transmitter.
Right. Under the holographic uniform. Right. So meanwhile, Janet Reno takes command. She actually does I think she does a pretty good job.
I have it in my notes in this. I like Reno's performance. She was effective as a commander here.
Right.
She apparently, they're apparently not following the naval tradition of whoever is in command gets referred to as captain.
Well, except when they do.
Well, I mean, she gives a bunch of orders on the bridge, and the kids all together say, "Yes, Captain," and she says, "I'm not a captain." So
when they leave Genesis in charge, Derem calls her captain. Like,
oh, does he? Okay,
a little miss there in the script.
Yeah, but later Reno says this is a hell of a lot better than that simulation fiasco, and I'm going, yeah, because you're doing your job,
right. Exactly.
I did notice too that she's still teaching even in this crisis situation. She's using the opportunity to ask them, challenge them. Why are we doing this? That sort of thing.
I noticed that too. And I also thought that was maybe a way that she keeps what are likely some very nervous cadets in a new situation, kind of keeps them on task and helps them to, kind of think in a way that they're used to thinking. They're used to being quizzed as cadets, so she quizzes them. And she kind of, by doing that, I think, awakens something in them to say, okay, this is what we've been trained for. This is just an extension of what we've already been doing at the academy.
Right.
Yeah, I felt kind of two ways about this. My attitude is teaching is not what you do in the season finale. It's what you do in everything leading up to that. But when you get to the real emergency, okay, we're out of teaching mode. Except for what you need to know to do your current job. What they did have her do, or like this was one of the earlier moments where she was doing this is she starts into this big speech about, okay, so now you kids know what it's like to be on a ship in this kind of dire circumstance. But then she brings it around to, and you're either going to die or you're going to get out of it. So make up your mind right now and let's get out of this. It's like, okay, that is the kind of true morale focusing thing that makes sense to me. But I thought they should have, if I were writing it, I would have trimmed some of the teach and dialogue a bit. Yeah. But you're right, Father. That's good headcanon on why she could be doing it.
Right. Meanwhile, Caleb starts out self-absorbed as he usually is with his mom and that sort of thing when the fate of the Federation's on the brink. But it takes Princess Beta's Ed to remind him that we're weighing two very important lives against trillions of lives. So let's focus.
Yeah, she was so much less annoying this episode.
Yes, I agree. Although it was weird when she turned off, removed the little inhibitor thing. It wasn't going into her neck. It was just on the surface.
They set that up. When they replaced it, they said this new one isn't wired in. It just sits on the surface.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. All right. So we mentioned that Braga puts the Federation on trial for crimes against democracy, which is kind of funny, given him. And then he relates the tale of his childhood. And Nala, at this point, rather than getting into the whole strontium thing, she just says, oh, your colony was better off than most after the burn.
Because he mentions he grew up on a mining colony, and she eventually asks, what did it mine? And he said, strontium. Yeah. And well, then your colony was better off than most, in that you had a resource that, you could trade and so forth. She says some colonies just needed body bags. Right. And she doesn't bring out, and this is actually true, that strontium burns bright red. Right. And this is going to be important because he says his father rigged a set of missiles to try to take down. They reminded me of cargo cults. In the Pacific during World War II, you had all these Americans coming in with their planes and stuff to island hopping. And they've got these planes with all these amazing materials and foods and things that really impressed the natives. And then after the war, the Americans all leave and take their stuff with them. And so there were these cargo cults that sprang up where, well, okay, maybe if we build things that look like airplanes and we mimic motions like, directing an airplane where to land, we'll get the magical airplanes back with all their amazing stuff. And that's what the cargo cults were. And so Nus Braka is talking about how we saw all these shuttles flying over our planet to other planets. So, really? You saw them flying over your planet? They came that close to it? Yeah. And his dad built missiles to try to take one down so that they could get all the magical stuff off the cargo shuttle. And then the Federation bombed them with missiles, and he remembers the night sky burning red and stuff like that. And the big reveal that Captain Ake is going to do at the end is, hey, strontium burns red. Our weapons fire for the last several centuries has all been green and blue. So it was your own dad's attempt to bring one down that killed everybody in your colony. It wasn't us that launched a missile strike on you.
Like the lightsaber thing. The good guys are green and blue. The bad guys are red.
Yeah.
easy to tell. So it was about this point that Caleb admits that he's an arrogant little expletive. Like he admits that, and I'm like, this is our hero. I just, whatever.
At least
Okay,
Janet
Caleb.
Reno said, I'm going to be an arrogant little expletive in the future. And Janet Reno said, oh, I got no doubt about that.
Folks, this is our hero. So meanwhile, Anisha continues to her irrationality. She uses the trial to attack Nala. She wants Nala to, Captain Ake, to spend the rest of her life grieving because that's the only way she'll get justice is if Captain Ake suffers for the rest of her life. Like, okay, whatever. Like you did commit a crime.
So
like,
I'm gonna kill the entire Federation in order to make you suffer and feel guilty.
Yeah, and it's like this. You committed a crime. They were putting you in jail for your crime, and you were mad because they took your son away because you wanted him to be in jail with you? Like,
yeah, well, we have people today who don't understand if you go to jail, you don't get to bring your kids along.
Yeah. I was thinking of the political parallels today, and maybe they were intentionally making this parallel here, but it just is. It's not rational. I mean, yeah. So the doctor,
because there's no harm in letting a child grow up in jail.
right? He would have been perfectly well adjusted without trauma at all. So the doctor, meanwhile, if you back up, if she wanted to blame them for anything, blame them for the incompetent way that they let this 6-year-old child escape their clutches and end up on the streets by himself. But that's a whole nother thing. The doctor emerges from the computer all messed up, kind of like Sam was earlier. He's all glitching. Why did he keep?
And he's talking in this. He keeps saying this nonsensical stuff about find the glue. The glue is the bond. Look for the glue on your shoes and stuff like that, which is his disordered way of trying to communicate that these omega particles have something to do with something called Rubin particles that don't exist, but you can stabilize them with gluons, which do exist.
Right.
But he's all messed up, so he's not communicating it properly. And Sam and Jaden figure out what he's saying. They realize he's trying to communicate to them how we can neutralize, stabilize all of the omega molecules so that they don't go boom.
Right.
But what I want to know is how does Sam know all this stuff about omega molecules, and how does the doctor know all this stuff about omega molecules? Because this is all classified because it's so super dangerous. This is like these people walking around with the schematics for hydrogen bombs in their heads.
Okay.
I mean, a gun model bomb, sure, but a hydrogen implosion bomb, wow, you don't let that information get out.
Maybe the doctor, I can give the doctor a pass because he was on Voyager when they first encountered the omega particle, the omega directive.
Okay, maybe,
episode.
yeah.
I'll give him that pass. But yeah, why does Sam know? Who knows? It really bugs me that they continue to treat the holograms when they glitch as if they have a medical problem.
Right.
Like they use medical language. We're going, like they are a program. They need an engineer. Which is what Voyager did. Whenever the doctor had a problem, B'Elanna fixed him because he was a program. So anyway, now, and then we get this weird scene of Sam attacking Genesis. It's sort of irrational, like, oh, you have a hero complex, and you treat me like I was Sam before I went to Cask, and now I'm a different person, and we have this huge blow up between them that ends in hugs. We have to end up in a hug.
Yeah, well, I can kind of, I mean, okay, after they did what they did on Cask, the writers could have gone in one of three directions. They could have had no change in Sam, which would have been bad.
Yeah.
They could have had total immediate change in Sam that they never addressed, or they could give her a character arc where she's now got these two competing sets of memories and she doesn't like who she was, but she is kind of going to the other extreme now. And eventually she'll find a happy medium in the middle. And it looks like that's the one they're doing, which is what I would do as a writer. So I'll cut her some slack on right now. She's a little irrational in how she's viewing her previous life, but she'll eventually get the perspective she needs to.
I guess. Yeah. I guess you're right. Because the problem, I think, is it's how short the season is and how late in the season that episode came. We didn't have time to really develop that arc. I mean, this is the problem with streaming series these days. We have 8, 9, 10 episodes to do all this. You don't have time to really develop an arc. So I get that.
Do you think that's part of why we have trouble
caring
about the characters, and because we don't have enough episodes to jump into that?
I can imagine if DS9 was 9 or 10 episodes a season. I don't think we'd ever warm up. I don't think I would have ever warmed up to Julian, or and Quark would have been insufferable. And I don't know. I just feel like, I think part of the problem is we just don't have the time to get to know the characters and for the characters to be developed over time. They have to rush all of that character development in a very short period of time, and it makes the characters weird and unlikable sometimes. So we've got Terima, and it turns out her curse is the gift that will guide them to Braka, and all we need to do is do a telepathic link, and she can somehow determine subspace coordinates or spatial coordinates.
Yeah. So what they're doing in this part of the episode, the thing that had freaked out Caleb previously was she started to uncover information about his mom in his mind. And when he was just there for the sex. Right. And so he lets her back into his mind and says, you previously started to find my connection with mom. So I'm going to let you do this again, and you can tell us where she is so we can figure out where Nus Braka is. And it's like, well, hindsight is golden. She could have found mom much earlier in the season if he had thought of that.
Yeah.
But she then, so, okay, fine. She senses where mom is. And she then articulates it in terms of a precise course, so-and-so mark so-and-so, go in this direction. And I was thinking of the Stargate program, because not the TV show, the Defense Department program, because they had a constant problem of they would be assigned, like, find these hostages and that are in the Bekoff Valley. And so they would remote view them, and they would say, okay, I've got the target. How do I describe where it is? It's like alphanumeric data isn't retrieved well by remote viewing, and the street signs are all in Arabic anyway. Right. So this was called the search problem. And even if you can lock onto the target, that doesn't mean you can describe how to get to the target. And so I was thinking of that when Terima is suddenly saying, 200 mark 400 or whatever it is. And it's, how are you translating your knowledge of where the target is into such precise coordinates? But I said, okay, this is an hour and 7 minutes long already. I'll just let him go with that.
For folks who aren't clear on it, the Defense Department Stargate program was a program in which they recruited people to use parapsychological means to remote view things on behalf of the national security, issues.
Yeah, and they had lots of assignments, and they were quite successful with many of them. But one issue where they struggled was, how do we describe where the target is, not what's going on with the target? They eventually solved it by using another parapsychological technique, dowsing. So they could map dowse, here's where the target's going to be.
Yeah. Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World and Mysterious.fm. We have plenty of episodes on this topic if you want to learn more about all of that.
Including interviewing the original government psychic spies.
Yes. It's really awesome. Go check that out. So this is where I want to get back to something I'd said earlier, where I was imagining, this trial, Ake in Holly Hunter versus how would Picard have been in this trial? How would Cisco have been in this trial? And I was thinking about Kirk. It would have been dignity overlaying barely restrained righteous indignation. Like you could Cisco, you would see him wanting to punch Braga right in the nose.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
but he would be, I'm a captain, and I'm going to tell you like it is. Picard would have that strong British steel reserve, standing up there, and even though he's French, but let's forget that. But he would have been, had that Shakespearean honor and up there, and I just didn't feel like. I felt like Holly Hunter was on the verge of tears the entire time. Like, I don't feel like she was really reacting.
I thought a lot of what Holly Hunter said was actually good. There was just too much of it.
Yeah.
And this was part of the slow part where there's too much speech making going on.
Yeah.
I mean, she did keep her shoes on throughout the trial, so maybe that's some
there's
positive.
that.
She did. She didn't kick him off and you sit down in a crisscross Indian sitting in
Lotus position.
Lotus position. Yeah. So Anisha declares Nala and the Federation guilty, and thus sent.
I only heard her declare Nala guilty, not the Federation.
Well, she just yells guilty when Braka is asking for her verdict.
No, she yells Captain Ake is guilty.
Really? I think.
Yeah, that's what I remember too, and I remember noticing that because I was thinking like, well, what about the Federation as a whole? Because that was part of what Braka was trying to do, was to try the whole Federation.
I guess.
Through Ake.
And I wondered are they going to do this? She declares Ake guilty. Mm-hmm. Braga then tries to generalize that to the whole Federation, and then they're going to have Anisha say, oh no, wait a minute now, I just said she's guilty, I didn't say anything about the trillions of people in the Federation.
Right. I guess I conflated that when she declared Ake guilty, and Braka kind of makes this like, oh, let's see that guilty, let's set off the bombs, set off the mines. So I mean, she effectively declared the Federation guilty by her sloppy ruling.
I thought that they were going to have this be a moment of redemption for Anisha, saying my quarrel is with her and what she did to me and my son, not with everybody else. You don't get to kill them because of this.
Well, and that raises an issue, is why is Anisha like let off the hook at the end of this episode? Like she participated. She almost destroyed the Federation by what she did, and she's still an escaped convict who had committed this crime. Like, are we conveniently forgetting all that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, technically, she did bad stuff here and didn't even complete her original sentence. But that's totally easy, barely an inconvenience.
So. Meanwhile, Caleb shows up because he needs to buy more time for whatever it is Sam is doing with her algorithm, because algorithms are magic that do things.
And how complex the algorithm is proportionate to the amount of time you have left to solve it.
Right.
Exactly. I'm not sure the writers actually know what an algorithm is. Because, never mind. But it's a magic word. But Caleb shows up to buy time, and he does so by telling him how much good the Academy has done for him. And I'm sure that's very convincing to him.
Oh, this was one of the things I have in my notes, that everything is, now I have to say this with qualification, but everything is predictable. And what I mean by that is, as soon as they set up a problem, I see how they're going to solve it. And some of that may be because of the way I personally watch TV. I think in plot terms of, here's a problem, how can we solve it? But I was anticipating we were going to have as soon as they said that Caleb's going to go, I thought, okay, we're going to have this big speech and it's going to be really soppy emotional about, the Federation and home and friends and stuff like that. And it is. And it's to me, it's cringe.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, at least now I can headcanon it as I've got to go in there and buy time. So I'm going to say a bunch of junk that is soppy, and I don't care that it's all unconvincing, because my job is not to convince them. My job is to delay them.
Buy time. Yeah.
But but it's meant to come across to the viewer as this inspiring speech about the Federation, and it's totally not inspiring. And not to me, it wasn't. And I like how at the end of it, Nus Braka just says, propaganda. And I'm going, yes, that's exactly what that was.
Well, there's a meta level of this too, where I feel like the writers are like, this was written by Alex Kurtzman, but he's creating propaganda about his show, Starfleet Academy, and how important Starfleet Academy is. And isn't it telling that his own platform, his own stage for it, is completely unconvincing in the end. I mean, we'll get to our overall thoughts on the season in a bit, but I agree. It just he was just buying time and saying what needed to be said, but it was soppy, and then we have nick of time stabilization of the Omega particles, and as you mentioned, Jimmy, very conveniently fast arrival of Starfleet. As soon as that wall went down, they were on the accelerator, ready to punch it. as soon as that wall came down.
And I have in my notes for that another massive ship's warping in scene.
Yes,
these are just so common in Star Trek these days, where you see, an empty star system, and then boom, 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 boom. Now my screen is filled with ships.
Right.
Very. It's like, okay, I've seen that. Don't need to see it every season.
I will give them credit. They did address the Discovery issue, which is the mycelial network thing. They at least gave us a reason why Discovery couldn't show up and save the day. So I'll give them that credit as well.
I was glad for that line as well, actually. Yeah.
So, and then we have things wrap up in the usual way. We've cleaned up the Academy, atrium, whatever, pretty quickly, as those robots will reckon over time.
Well, with replicators.
Exactly. They're all going to get medals from the president of the Federation. We're all going on spring break. Caleb's going to go travel with his mom, and then they're going to
come back and do another season for us.
Yes, apparently. You know what I missed was when Ake was telling the story, the counter story about the Federation officer that died because of what Anisha did, and because Braka killed him. I thought that was a pretty good thing. She humanized the red shirt.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually a nice moment to humanize a person we've never seen on screen, but to make them like, you killed somebody, and killing a person is not just a NPC. Like, this was a person who had a family, who they themselves have not had justice done because of your actions. I thought that was actually a good moment. So I give them credit for that.
I also like how they and a lot of the individual things they did, I thought in this were well written, including that one, because one of the things it does is it puts the spotlight not just on Nus Braka for having done wrong here, but Captain Ake, even though Anisha didn't want to kill this guy and didn't pull the trigger, Captain Ake is like, well, you got on that shuttle with Nus Braka, and you were armed too, right? Yeah. And you were willing to use the weapon too if it came to it, right? And just like, yeah. So you bear moral responsibility for this too. And I thought that was nicely done.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're up to like 4 or 5 hug scenes in my hug counter. It might be more, but that's at least that many in my notes. So just to kind of wrap up on that. We do end up with a group hug at the end as we end the episode.
Oh, that's the moment in the drinking game where you drain the entire glass. Yeah,
where I put myself out of my misery and drink the rest of the bottle. So, any last notes on this episode, Father?
One thing, and that is, we've seen before the Federation News Network. Well, this time we have VNN, presumably the Venari News Network.
It's there at the bottom, Venari Ral News Network.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that part. Okay. Yeah. So they're televising the trial with a little crawl at the bottom that has their anti-Federation, things there along the way, I guess. So
it could have been VNBC or something. It would have been fun.
There you go.
VBS.
Yeah. And then I don't know if we've talked about this before, but every episode, I think this season, we've had a Stephen Colbert referencing a Talaxian furfly in some way or another.
That's true.
That happened on this one as well. And I guess that's just supposed to be comedic relief or something, because it doesn't seem to tie into anything else.
No. This time he says, Cadet so-and-so, your Talaxian furfly has now left the replicator and is mating with itself. So it apparently duplicated itself, and now the two of them are mating. Does that seem right to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. There was one moment where it wasn't Stephen Colbert doing the announcements, and then we had him at the end. So I guess they wanted to bring him back for that.
Well, they had, there's a different voice for the ship's computer than the digital dean.
No, I get that. Yeah. No, there was another male voice at a different point making an announcement, but it wasn't important. But I noticed it.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy, any other notes on this one?
Something that I found interesting but a distraction in the credits for this episode is the last one in the season. They show us childhood pictures of the principal cast.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Not in makeup.
Yeah.
And they have next to them, and it says graduating class of 3196. Mm-hmm. So nobody's graduating in this episode, but I guess this is like meant to be 3 years in the future or something.
Yeah.
And they have, they're sort of in character text next to the out of character pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's problematic in that they aren't showing us the kids who are going to graduate in 3196. They show us them, but then they also have Captain Ake and Admiral Vance and
they're all class of 3196.
Anisha and Nus Braka, and so it's not a fully canon thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked it better if the text had all been canon. So they could have done that. They could have had the faculty of Starfleet or the administration of Starfleet Academy and the students of Starfleet Academy 3196. But there was some funny stuff in there. They had I guess it was for the computer voice. They gave her credit, and biggest fear was laryngitis. and then they had Stephen Colbert as the digital dean. Biggest desire, laryngitis. They also had Captain or Admiral Vance who had apparently been a member of Nova Squadron when he was in the Academy somehow, even though the Academy didn't exist then. Mm-hmm. But he had his preferred nickname or flight handle, which I forget what it was, something big and impressive, Rocket Man or something. But then actual nickname, Vancy Pants.
You never get the one you want. You never. Yeah. I know that by experience.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the trivia. When I was in Navy ROTC, I was the first of the midshipmen to get a nickname, and mine was Spock.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Because I had told I was challenged by an upperclassman, and I said, well, that would be logical, sir. At which point he freaked out and said, every time I call for Spock, I want you to come running, holding the tips of your ears. But hey, I was psyched that I got Spock. So.
I have currently there's a place I go on Sundays to have cheeseburgers because I don't keep my fasting rule on the Lord's Day in order to celebrate it. And they had, without me knowing it, they had given me a nickname there. And at first I assumed it's just because they don't know. I mean, they see my name on my credit card, but I assume it didn't register with them. But I would hear them. I would notice as I'd go up to the register, I'd hear them saying to each other, "Cowboy's ready to check out." And then they finally just started doing it to my face and calling me Cowboy.
I thought it was going to be like a ginger beard cowboy or something.
Nope. That's of anything you could pick on my visual appearance to give me a nickname. That's what they settled on.
Okay, good. Cool. So let's wrap up by kind of giving our impressions of Starfleet Academy season 1 overall. How do you think it did? Any thoughts going into? We know they've just completed filming season 2, but the future of Starfleet Academy is
pretty much set. No.
Yeah, pretty much. It's 2 and done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Father. But what did you think of season 1?
I had some pretty low expectations coming into it. I think the show's been a little bit better than those expectations in the sense that it had some good moments along the way. These last 2 episodes were very good, and there were some positive elements at different other points along the way. But there were some episodes that were difficult to get through, and even the good ones, were maybe a little bit longer than I would have liked. This hour and 7 minutes on this one, or 55, 58 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer than needed in that sense. And as we've said a number of times, it's just really difficult to care about the different characters here. And that made it difficult to...
Especially Princess Betazed.
Yes.
Until the very
Or her
end.
brother. I care even less about him, I guess.
Yeah, but at least he's not painful to watch.
Well, there's that, yeah.
Akin got razored out of the last 2 episodes.
That's right.
He wasn't in it at all. All right. Jimmy, how about you? Your overall?
Well, like Father, I had very low expectations for this show, and it met them. It actually was better than I was afraid it was going to be before it was on the air, because I'd heard all the buzz and really sounded negative. I was prepared to hate this and not want to watch it at all. Like I bailed on Discovery, but after I saw the first 2 episodes, it's like, I could imagine reviewing this, and it's been bumpy. There have been good bits. There have been bad bits. The last 2 episodes, I think, were the best of the season. So I would say it was a minimally acceptable Star Trek series in the sense of at least I was willing to watch it. Whereas I could easily have not done that. Don't know whether I'll want to watch next season or not. So it's on the bubble for me.
So I think I was the most skeptical of the 3 of us. I did not want to review this. I was willing to watch the first couple episodes, but I didn't want to do the whole season. But you convinced me. So that sets you up for my take on it. I guess I'm in agreement. There were some good moments. There were some pretty good episode moments. Nothing great. Nothing stands out. None of these episodes would be in my top 25 or 50 episodes of Star Trek ever.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of Star Trek out there. Then there are hundreds of episodes of Star Trek. So I'm not even sure any of them would crack the top 100. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, I didn't really care about any of the characters, so it was hard to. If by the end of the season, I think they were starting to figure out, like these last 2 episodes, if we'd gotten some of this in the beginning and less of the other Starfleet Academy 90210 stuff, I think this would have been a better season. I've seen talk about that. They've made changes to season 2. They've toned down certain aspects and fixed other things. But yeah, in the end, it got a little better. But I don't know. I'm in agreement. Like when season 2 rolls around, am I going to want to watch it? I don't know. Maybe it depends on where we are in the rest of Star Trek watching stuff. Maybe that stuff will be more interesting to me. But we'll have to see.
On the other hand, if they have made tweaks and course corrections, it might make next season better than this one was.
Right.
That is possible.
I did see something where one of the showrunners said that next season won't have a villain per se, but more the villain will be a situation, which is kind of like what they did with, say like the burn or, some galactic issue, space issue or something, some scientific problem. Maybe more what they're dealing with. So that would be a nice change. I think getting a villain is fine, but changing it up would be fine as well.
And knowing that season 2 will be the last season makes me a little more inclined to go ahead and watch it because like at least there's an end in sight.
Right.
Completest impulses.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's all this talk, to kind of get in the corporate stuff about Alex Kurtzman, who's been running New Trek from the beginning. His contract with Paramount is up, and will they renew or won't they renew? And most consensus that I've seen from people who are sort of have inside connections has been his contract won't be renewed, but there's a chance it could be. So who knows?
Or some kind of modified, stripped down one where it's like, okay, we get a first look at your proposed series if you want to create a Star Trek series, but you are not our exclusive Star Trek guy anymore.
Right. There is talk that Star Trek United, featuring Jonathan Archer, starting the Federation, that there's more and more chance that that's going to happen, which I think would be a nice restart to Star Trek in the Paramount Plus era.
But by the way, something about now, of course, Alex Kurtzman was not the original showrunner on Discovery.
Right.
So there was going to be a different showrunner for Star Brian Fuller, I think.
Fuller, yeah.
And things fell apart with him and they brought in Kurtzman. So I don't want to totally blame Kurtzman for all the problems with modern Trek. Like the Klingons would have been what they were, and a lot of season 1 of Discovery would have been what it was already. But I also want to defend Kurtzman just a little bit. He and Roberto Orsi, who's also on this, they did the show Fringe. And recently I've been rewatching Fringe, and it is just good. It is good. Yeah. So Kurtzman can do really good stuff. And now part of it may be of the times, just like in 2005 when Doctor Who came back, Russell T Davies couldn't do certain things on television, and then by 2020 he could, and that made the show much worse. There may be something like that going on with Kurtzman too, because when Fringe came out in like 2008, 2010, the whole DEI representation, let's shove every sexuality on screen possible, was not a thing yet. And so Fringe didn't have any of that. And that's part of why it's good. But now Hollywood has gone to this woke representational stuff. And so it may be that the constraints that Kurtzman was operating under during the time of Fringe were part of what made that good, as opposed to his ultimate inclinations. But still, Fringe is really good. I've even been tempted to propose, hey, it's, maybe we want to do a Secrets of Fringe at some point.
Yeah, I really loved that show. That was a really good show. There is talk that Hollywood is starting to pull back from the excesses of the last decade or so. So maybe there's hope. So, all right. That is putting a cap on Starfleet Academy's first season. I did say we had some feedback. This feedback came on our discussion of the last episode, 300th Night. This came from Les, who wrote on our Discord. One other troubling thing was being able to cloak two people by merely increasing the atmospheric pressure. Geez, have they lost all ability to engineer in the future? Come on. First, thermal imaging or cameras that range from infrared to ultraviolet should be able to detect anything present, whether in a vacuum or 100 atmospheres. Moment-to-moment frame differential would detect movement. Second, unless they are very good at playing the silent game, audio would detect something. Third, sending out 200 kilohertz audio would get a Doppler shift if anything moved. That's how sensors that turn on lights work. That's 3 20th century technologies that should be able to detect them, let alone using TOS and TNG tech that detects a single life on a planet while the ship is in orbit. As an engineer, I'm insulted by these writers who have no idea how technology works.
In The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's this scene where the computer Deep Thought has been calculating a way for, I don't know, millions of years to come up with the ultimate answer to the ultimate question. And the answer it comes up with is 42. And you have these two philosophers who've shown up objecting. They're protesting before Deep Thought gives its answer. And when it gives its answer, they are discussing, well, why does this seem unimpressive to us? And one of them says to the other, it must be that our minds are too finely trained. and it's like, yep, they've got sensors in the 32nd century that are too finely trained to do what cameras and microphones would do.
My response is they need to hire another Andre Bormanis, who was the scientific advisor on TNG. He didn't prevent all of this sort of thing on TNG. I mean, they had their issues, but he might have noticed this problem. All right. So thank you, Les. And now we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including Paula K, Claire P, Mario L, Priscilla H, and Darius M. Their generous donations at GiveStarQuest.com make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting GiveStarQuest.com. And I'll just say, if you'd like to see a Secrets of Fringe or a Secrets of Babylon 5, or, maybe think about becoming a patron, help us get the resources to do more new shows. So that's it from us. We'd love to know what you thought of RubinCon or the whole first season of Starfleet Academy. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com, or visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/discord, or watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And you should subscribe, like, and leave a comment there. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the Next Generation episode, The Hunted. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, Dom. And remember, you may only need an air pressure change of 0.02 in order to hide from Starfleet sensors, but you need an air pressure change of 2 full %, 100 times more, in order to need to pop your ears. Live long and prosper.
And Father Jason Tyler, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, come on, guys, I made it funny. Laugh.